Captain Alex Morrison had seen many strange things during his 15 years exploring the outer colonies, but nothing prepared him for the sight of her standing in the ruins of Station Epsilon 7. She was tall and impossibly graceful with features that seemed almost human yet distinctly otherworldly. Her skin held a faint glow like moonlight caught beneath the surface, and her eyes shifted between violet and silver as she looked at him with an intensity that made his breath catch. Pointed, ears swept back from her temples, partially hidden by long hair that moved as if underwater. Even in the station's still air behind her, coiled among the twisted metal and shattered viewport glass, was a creature that should not exist. The Dragon 4, what else could it be, was the size of a small ship with scales reflecting the emergency lights in shimmering patterns of deep emerald and gold. Steam rose from its nostrils as it watched him with eyes far too intelligent for any animal. "You are wondering if you have finally lost your mind," she said, her voice carrying an accent he could not place, musical and strange. "You have not, though I wish you had simply stayed away." Alex kept his hand near his sidearm, though he suspected it would be. "Useless. Who are you and what happened here?" "My name is Lyra," she replied, stepping forward. The dragon shifted with a low rumble coming from its chest. "And what happened here is the beginning of a war your species is not ready for." The station had gone dark 3 days ago. 17 crew members, all experienced personnel, had simply stopped responding to Hale's command had sent Alex because he was expendable, a captain without a ship, a man with a reputation for surviving impossible situations. Now he understood why they had expected him to die here. The Void Collective. Lyra continued, her expression darkening. "They have found this sector. My people have fought them for 3,000 years across galaxies you have not even named yet. We have held them back, kept them from reaching primitive worlds like yours." She paused, studying him. "We have been your guardians, though you never knew we existed. Guardians, then you did a poor job," Alex said with bitterness. "Everyone here is dead. Not dead, but taken." Lyra's eyes flashed with something fierce and desperate. "There is still time to get them back, but I cannot do this alone. The collective has weapons that can harm even Kale." She gestured to the dragon, who lowered his massive head, looking at Alex with what might have been curiosity. "I need someone who knows human tactics and human technology. Someone who can think like them, because he is one of them. You need a human soldier," Alex said slowly. "I need you. Alex Morrison." She moved closer, and he caught a scent like ozone and strange flowers. "I have watched you. You are different from the others. You see patterns and possibilities. You survived the Titan colony collapse when everyone else perished. You brokered peace with the Centauri refugees. When war seemed inevitable, you are exactly what I need. And if I refuse," Lyra's expression softened and became almost sad, "then the collective will sweep through this sector within the year. Your colonies will fall one by one. Earth itself will follow. Within a decade," she held out her hand. "Accepted human, you belong with me. You always have, though you did not know it until now. Together, we might actually save your species." The dragon. Kyle unfurled one wing slightly, as if in invitation or threat. Alex looked from the creature to the woman to the ruins around him. Every instinct screamed that this was insane, that he should call for backup, that he should run. Instead, he thought of the 17 missing crew members. He thought of the colonies, and of Earth, and of everyone who had no idea what was coming for them. He took her hand. "Tell me everything," he said, "and then let's go to war." Lyra's smile was fierce and beautiful and terrifying. "I was hoping you would say that." She led him deeper into the station, past corridors where blast marks scarred the walls and where equipment lay shattered and smoking. Kale followed behind them, somehow moving through spaces too small for his bulk, as if he could bend reality around himself. "The collective is not like anything your species has encountered before," Lyra explained as they walked. "They are a fusion of organic and machine life forms that consume entire civilizations. They do not kill if they can avoid it. Instead, they convert living beings into extensions of their hive mind. They strip away everything that makes you individual and turn you into a slave." Alex felt his stomach turn. What happened to the crew here? They were taken to a collective ship for conversion. "We have maybe days before," The process is complete. After that, they will be lost forever. Just more bodies serving the hive. Can the process be reversed? If we act quickly? Yes. But we need to find their ship first, and that means going into space without any of your human vessels. They would be detected and destroyed before we got close. Then how do we get there? Lyra smiled and looked back at Kale. On him. Of course, Alex stared at the dragon. You cannot be serious. Kale can travel through space faster than your fastest ships. He generates a field that protects anyone touching him. He has done this for centuries, flying through space on the back of a dragon. Alex said, shaking his head. This day just keeps getting stranger. They reached the station's command center where Lyra accessed the remaining computer systems. Her fingers moved over the controls with practiced ease, calling up data that made Alex lean closer. There, the collective ship is still in this system, hiding behind the fourth moon. They are waiting to see if anyone noticed the station going dark. If no one comes, they will assume this sector is undefended and call in more ships. Then we need to move now. Alex said. Lyra nodded. But first you need to understand what you are agreeing to. Once we attack that ship, once we rescue your people, the collective will know that someone is defending this sector. They will escalate. They will send more ships and bigger fleets. Your people will be dragged into a war. Whether they want it or not. Alex met her strange, shifting eyes. I told you already. We do not abandon our people ever. If rescuing them starts a war, then we will fight that war. This is why I chose you, Lyra said quietly. This stubborn human refusal to leave anyone behind. It is both your greatest weakness and your greatest strength. My people learned long ago to make calculated sacrifices to let some die so that others might live. But you humans, you charge forward. Even when logic says you should retreat, is that a compliment or a criticism? Bodhi, she said with a slight smile. Now come. We have a rescue mission to plan and not much time. Kale needs to prepare, and you need to learn how to hold on when we are moving faster than anything you have experienced. They spent the next hour going over the plan. It was insane and dangerous and had a dozen ways it could go wrong, but it was also their only chance. The collective ship was heavily armed, but Lyra knew its weak points. She had fought these vessels before and knew how to exploit their design flaws. As they prepared to leave, Alex found himself studying Lyra more closely. She moved with a grace that seemed almost like dancing, and there was a sadness in her eyes that spoke of long years of fighting and losing. Despite her confidence, he could see the weight she carried. How long have you been fighting this war? He asked. 50 of your years, she replied. I was young when I first faced the collective, barely more than a child by my people's standards. I have seen worlds burn and friends die. I have fought battles across more star systems than you have names for. And through it all, we have been losing ground slowly but surely. Then why keep fighting? Because the alternative is to surrender, to let them win, to let every free species in the galaxy become slaves. She looked at him directly. Because some things are worth fighting for even when you know you might lose. Alex understood that he had felt the same way many times in his own career when faced with impossible odds and certain defeat. Sometimes you fought not because you could win, but because it was the right thing to do. Are you ready? Lyra asked as they stood before Kale. The dragon had moved to an open area where debris had been cleared away. His scales seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. As ready as I will ever be. Alex said. Lyra climbed onto Kale's back with easy familiarity, finding handholds among his scales that seemed designed for a rider. Alex followed more clumsily, trying not to think about how high off the ground they were or how sharp those scales looked up close. Hold tight, Lyra instructed. This first jump is always the hardest. Before Alex could ask what she meant, Kale launched himself forward. The station walls rushed past them, and then, suddenly, they were in space surrounded by stars and the infinite black. The dragon generated a shimmering field around them, and Alex could breathe, could feel warmth and pressure, as if they were still inside a ship. This is impossible. He breathed. Your science is young, Lyra said from in front of him. You think in terms of limitations. Kale is older than your civilization. He bends space around us and creates atmosphere and gravity and warmth. To him, this is as natural as breathing is to you. The dragon banked and suddenly they were accelerating. Alex felt the speed in his bones, felt reality blur around them as Kale moved faster and faster. The stars stretched into lines and then they were somewhere else entirely. Ahead of them partially, hidden in the shadow of a barren moon, was the collective ship. It was massive and wrong with angles that hurt to look at, and surfaces that seemed to exist in more dimensions than should be possible. There Lyra pointed to a section of the hull that pulsed with sickly light. "That is where they keep their conversion chambers. That is where your people are. Then let's go get them," Alex said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Lyra looked back at him and smiled. "Welcome." 3 hours later, Alex found himself clinging to Kale's back as they hurtled through space without a ship, and without a suit, and without anything but the shimmering field of energy the dragon somehow generated around them. "This is impossible," he shouted, though the vacuum should have killed him instantly. "Your science is young," Lyra called back from where she sat ahead of him, as comfortable on the dragon's scales as he would be in a pilot's chair. "You still think in terms of what cannot be. Kale is older than your civilization. He bends space around us and creates atmosphere and gravity and warmth. To him, this is as natural as breathing is to you." The dragon banked sharply, and Alex caught a glimpse of what they were pursuing, the massive ship of twisted geometry that hurt to look at directly, with all its wrong angles and surfaces that seemed to exist in more dimensions than should be possible. The Void collective vessel. There. Lyra pointed to a pulsing section of the hull. "That is where they are keeping your people. The collective does not kill if they can convert. They will strip away everything that makes them human and turn them into slaves and soldiers and weapons." "How do we get inside?" Alex asked. Lyra grinned with a savage expression. "Kale, whenever you are ready." The dragon roared, and the sound that Alex felt in his bones resonated through the fabric of space itself. And then Kale dove toward the alien ship. Energy weapons erupted from the vessel's surface with beams of light and force that should have burned them to ash. Instead, Kale wove between them with impossible grace, and the few that connected scattered harmlessly against his scales. They struck the hull like a meteor, and Kale's claws tore through metal and something else that was organic and screaming. The ship shuddered, and atmosphere vented in explosive bursts as the dragon carved an opening, large enough for them to slip through. Inside was a nightmare of pulsing flesh and metal hybrid, architecture lit by bioluminescent veins running through the walls. Creatures that might once have been a dozen different species shambled or scuttled through the corridors with their eyes vacant and their bodies modified with mechanical parts. "Do not hesitate," Lyra said. Drawing 2 curved blades from sheaths at her hips, they ignited with blue fire. "They are already gone. You would be giving them mercy." But Alex could not shoot when one of the creatures turned, and he recognized Lieutenant Patricia. Cold beneath the cybernetic horror grafted to her skull. "Patricia," he whispered. She lunged at him with speed no human should possess, and Alex barely dodged as his military training overrode his shock. He fired, and the plasma round took her in the chest. She went down hard. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "Save your grief for later," Lyra said, cutting down 3 more creatures with fluid movements. "We need to reach the conversion chambers before the others end up like her." Kale led the way. And though he was too large for the corridors, he seemed to flow through them anyway as his body phased through obstacles when necessary. The remaining converted crew members threw themselves at the dragon and were destroyed, torn apart by claws or burned by gouts of flame. They found the chambers deep in the ship's core with crystalline pods filled with murky fluid, and inside them the rest of the station crew. Tubes and wires snaked into their bodies, and above each pod, holographic displays showed progress bars slowly filling, 20% converted. Lyra read, "We are in time but barely, Alex. I need you to understand something." She turned to him with a grave expression. "Saving them means declaring open war. The collective will know a human helped me. They will escalate. Your people will be dragged into a conflict that has raged since before your species left the trees. They were already coming." Alex said, "You said so yourself?" "Yes, but slowly and carefully. Now they will come with everything they have." She moved to the nearest pod with her hands hovering over alien controls. "Once we do this, there is no going back. For any of us." Alex looked at the 14 remaining crew members floating in their pods unconscious, but still human, and still able to be saved. He thought about Earth and about the billions who had no idea what existed in the dark between stars. "Do it," he said. "We do not abandon our people." Ever Lyra's smile was sad and proud at the same time. "This is why I chose you." Her fingers danced across the controls and the pods began to drain. "This is why you belong with me in this fight. Your species' stubborn refusal to yield and to leave anyone behind it is both your greatest weakness and your strength." Alarms began to wail throughout. The ship and the collective had noticed them. Kale Lyra shouted. The dragon roared again, and this time Alex felt the ship itself shudder in response. Cracks appeared in the walls, spreading like ice on a winter pond. The pods shattered and spilled their occupants onto the deck. Alex rushed to help them, checking pulses and helping them breathe. "We need to go now." Lyra grabbed 2 crew members with impossible strength. "Kale will shield us, but only if we are touching him." They gathered the confused crew, members getting them all in contact with the dragon scales. The ship was coming apart around them with something catastrophic happening deep in its core. "What did you do?" Alex demanded. "Kyle resonates at a frequency that disrupts collective biotechnology," Lyra explained as they fled back through the deteriorating corridors. "But it takes time to build up. The ship is eating itself from the inside out." They burst back out into space just as the vessel folded in on itself, imploding in a flash of light. That should not have been visible in vacuum, but somehow as Kale's wings caught them, and they soared away from the destruction. Behind them, smaller ships were detaching from the dying mothership and pursuing. "Hold tight," Lyra said. "This is where it gets interesting." Alex held on as the dragon accelerated to speeds that should have turned them all into paste, and he realized with crystal clarity that his life as he had known it was over. The war had begun. They flew for what felt like hours, but might have been minutes as time seemed to bend and stretch around them. The crew members huddled together, barely conscious and shivering, despite the warmth Kale provided. Alex kept checking them with his medical scanner, relieved that they seemed stable. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Lyra." "Somewhere safe," she replied. "Somewhere the collective cannot follow easily. My home." A planet appeared ahead, smaller than Earth, with 3 moons and rings that sparkled like diamonds in the light of a blue-white sun. They descended through clouds that shimmered with colors that had no names in any human language. "Welcome to Ethermore," Lyra said, "the last sanctuary of my people." Below, a city emerged from the forests, but calling it a city felt wrong. Structures of crystal and living wood spiraled toward the sky, connected by bridges of light. Gardens grew on every surface, and creatures that might have been horses or deer or something entirely different grazed in parks between buildings. And everywhere, Lyra's people moved with that same impossible grace, many accompanied by dragons of varying sizes and colors. "Your people," Alex said. "You are not just some lone warrior. This is a whole civilization. What is left of one?" Lyra said quietly. "We once had worlds, like this, scattered across the galaxy. The collective has taken them one by one. Ethermore is our last stronghold. When this falls, my species ends." They landed in a plaza where dozens of Lyra's kind had gathered along with their dragons. The crowd parted as an elderly figure approached, leaning on a staff that pulsed with soft light. Her hair was silver and her eyes ancient. Grandmother Lyra said, bowing, "You brought a human here." The old woman, whose name was Elder Mira, spoke with disappointment in her voice, "And not just one, but 15 of them. Have you forgotten our laws, child? I remember them perfectly, Elder Mira. I also remember that laws mean nothing if we are all dead." Lyra gestured to the rescued crew. "The collective has reached their sector. Within weeks they will begin harvesting human worlds. I need allies, and humanity needs to know what is coming." Elder Mira studied Alex with eyes that seemed to see through him. "And you, human, do you understand what has been done to you? You have seen beyond the veil. You can never unknow what you have learned. Your own kind will call you mad, Or worse, a traitor working with aliens they do not trust. Alex straightened, despite his exhaustion. 3 days ago. I thought I knew what the universe looked like. I was wrong, but I am not going to pretend I did not see what I saw, and I am not going to let my people walk blindly into extinction. If that makes me mad, then I am mad. A hint of a smile crossed the elder's face. Lyra, you have chosen well. Or perhaps he has chosen you. She raised her staff. The council will need to meet. In the meantime, see to your humans. They require medical attention that our healers can provide. As Lyra led them toward a crystalline building that served as a medical facility, Alex caught glimpses of the sanctuary inhabitants watching them with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. He heard whispers in a musical language he could not understand. They are not happy. We are here. He observed. Many of my people believe humans are too primitive and too violent to be trusted with knowledge of greater civilizations. Lyra admitted. They think you will bring the collective down upon us faster, that you will be more trouble than you are worth. Are we, Alex? Asked. She looked at him, and something in her gaze made his chest tighten. I do not believe so. Your species is young, yes, impulsive and prone to conflict. But you are also adaptable in ways my people have not been in thousands of years. You innovate, and you take risks, and you refuse to accept the impossible. She paused. 3,000 years ago, my people would have left those crew members behind, acceptable losses for the greater good. On the 4th night, Lyra found Alex on a balcony overlooking the city, watching the 3 moons rise. Kale lounged nearby with his massive form, somehow peaceful in repose. The council has made their decision, she said, joining him at the railing. They are going to let you return to Earth. They will provide evidence of the collective proof that cannot be dismissed, but they will not commit forces yet. They want to see if humanity can be trusted with the truth, and if we panic. Alex asked, if we turn on each other instead of preparing, then we will know we were right to keep our distance. She looked at him. Alex, I need you to understand something. When I said you belong with me, I meant it, not as a soldier or an ally. This goes deeper. She hesitated, which was unusual for her. There is a phenomenon my people call soul resonance. It is rare even among our own kind. 2 beings whose essences harmonize, who can achieve together what neither could alone, like a bond. Alex said slowly, like you and Kale, similar, but different. Kale is my companion, my friend, my partner in battle. But this. She took his hand, and he felt a warmth spread from the point of contact through his arm into his chest. When we touched on that station, when you chose to fight beside me, something connected. I felt it. I think you did too. He had a sense of rightness, of pieces falling into place. He had blamed it on adrenaline, on the stress of the situation. But now in the quiet, he could not deny it. What does this mean? He asked. It means I was telling the truth. You belong with me in this war, in this fight. Her eyes met his, vulnerable in a way he had not seen before, and possibly beyond it, if we survive. Kale rumbled a sound that might have been approval. Your people are going to think. I have lost my mind, Alex said. Probably, Lyra agreed. Mine already think I have. He laughed despite everything, and she joined him, and for a moment the war seemed far away. But only for a moment. When do I leave? He asked. Tomorrow I will come with you. Of course, someone needs to make sure you do not get yourself killed, explaining the impossible to your superiors. That is not going to be fun. No. She agreed with her smile, fierce. But nothing worth doing ever is. They spent the rest of the night talking. About everything and nothing. Alex told her about growing up on Earth, about his family, about the dreams he had before joining the military. Lyra shared stories of Ethermore, of her childhood learning to bond with Kale, of the first time she had seen a collective ship and understood what her life would become. As dawn broke over the alien city, painting the crystal towers in shades of gold and violet, Alex realized something important. He was not afraid. Not of what was coming, not of the impossible task ahead, not even of these strange feelings growing between him and this otherworldly warrior. He was ready. The journey back to Earth took 2 days, even with Kale's impossible speed. They brought with them data crystals filled with information about the collective, about their technology and tactics and weaknesses. They also brought samples of converted tissue and recordings of the battle at Station Epsilon. 7 evidence that could not be denied. Earth's defense grid nearly shot them down twice, before Lyra managed to broadcast proper identification codes. Even then, they were escorted by 6 fighter craft all the way to the military installation in Colorado, where the Joint Chiefs had assembled. The crew members they had rescued had already been debriefed and quarantined and thoroughly examined. Their testimonies had created enough alarm that the highest levels of military and government were paying attention, even if they did not quite believe it. Yet, Alex and Lyra stood in a briefing room designed to intimidate, facing a panel of generals and admirals who looked at them with varying degrees of doubt and hostility. Kyle had stayed in orbit, his presence deemed too inflammatory for the initial meeting. The Dragon had not been pleased. General Catherine Hayes, the highest-ranking officer present, studied them with sharp eyes. Captain Morrison, you were declared absent without leave 3 weeks ago. You disappeared with classified information and no explanation. Now you return with... She gestured to Lyra, an undocumented alien and a story that sounds like bad science fiction. With respect, General, everything we have told you can be verified, Alex said. The crew from Station Epsilon 7 can support every detail. The medical scans show the cybernetic modifications they underwent. The footage from the station's external cameras shows the collective ship footage can be faked, said Admiral Liu. The crew could be suffering from shared delusion. And as for your friend here, he looked at Lyra. We do not even know what species you are. My species is called the Etherborn, Lyra said calmly. And your doubt, while frustrating, is understandable. You have been protected from the truth for so long that accepting it feels impossible. So let me offer you something you cannot dismiss. She touched a device on her wrist and a hologram filled the room, showing a star map with overlays of territorial boundaries that had never existed in any human database. This is your galaxy, as it truly exists, Lyra said. The red zones are collective territory. They have consumed 17 major civilizations in the past 1,000 years alone. The blue zones are the remaining free species like mine who still resist. The gray zones are buffer spaces, places both sides avoid. And the green. She highlighted a small cluster of stars that included Sol. The green zones are quarantine sectors, developing civilizations that neither side has officially contacted, protected by ancient treaties that are now breaking down. Earth sits at the edge of one of the largest unclaimed regions in this spiral arm. Rich resources, minimal defenses, billions of potential converts. You are a prize worth fighting over. General Hayes leaned forward. You are saying Earth is valuable because we are weak and numerous. Precisely, Lyra replied. And the collective has decided the treaty is not worth respecting anymore. They have begun probing your borders. Station Epsilon 7 was a test to see if they could take humans without anyone noticing. They succeeded far too easily. So why reveal yourself now? Admiral Liu asked. If your people have been protecting us in secret for so long, why break cover? Because we are losing, Lyra said bluntly. We cannot protect you anymore. We can barely protect ourselves. In 6 months, maybe a year, the collective will launch a full invasion of this sector. When they do, every human world will be targeted at once. You will be overwhelmed before you can mount any defense. Unless Hayes prompted. Unless you prepare. Unless you accept our help and help us in return. Lyra changed the hologram showing ship designs and weapon schematics and defensive technologies. My people have been fighting this war for 3,000 years. We know their tactics, their weaknesses. We can teach you to fight them, but we need your numbers, your manufacturing capacity, your human determination. You want us to join your war, Liu said flatly. The war is already coming for you. Alex cut in. Admiral, I have seen what the collective does. To people I watched, Lieutenant Cole, someone I served with for 5 years, turned into a mindless slave. In days I have seen entire civilizations reduced to raw materials. This is not a choice between peace and war. It is a choice between fighting, with a chance of winning or being slaughtered in ignorance. Silence fell over the room. The officials exchanged glances, communicating in the wordless way of people who had worked together for years. Finally, Hayes spoke. Let's say we believe you. Let's say we accept that this threat is real and coming. What exactly are you proposing a partnership? Lyra said, share technology. We will help you upgrade your ships, your weapons, your defenses. In exchange, you provide forces to help defend not just Earth, but the remaining free worlds. We coordinate our efforts. We make a stand together. And if we refuse, then I return to Ethermore and recommend my people evacuate this sector entirely. Lyra's expression grew cold. We will fall back to more defensible positions and let the collective have everything between here and the galactic core, including Earth. That is quite a threat, Hayes said. That is reality. I do not have the luxury of making this sound pleasant. General, my people are exhausted. We have been fighting alone for so long that many want to simply find a distant corner of the galaxy and hide. Let the rest burn. I am fighting that view every day. She paused. I believe humanity is worth saving. I believe you can make a difference in this war, but I need you to believe it too. The meeting continued for 6 more hours. They examined the technical data Lyra provided, brought in scientists to analyze it, ran simulations of the scenarios she described. Slowly, reluctantly, the officials began to accept that this was not a hoax or mass delusion. When they finally broke for the evening, Hayes pulled Alex aside. Walk with me, Captain. They ended up on a rooftop overlooking the facility with the mountains dark against the stars. Hayes lit a cigarette, a habit she had supposedly quit years ago. Off the record, she said, "Do you trust her, Alex?" Thought about the question, really considered it. "Yes, General, I do." "Why, you have known her less than a month because she did not have to warn us," he said. "She could have let Earth fall and focused on saving her own people. Instead, she is risking everything, her position, her standing with her own government to give us a chance." He paused. "And because when I am with her, when we are fighting side by side, it feels right in a way I cannot explain." Hayes studied him. "Are you involved with her, Morrison?" "Not yet," he admitted. "But I want to be." She took a long drag. "It always is complicated." "For what it is worth, I believe her too. The data is too detailed to be fabricated. And those crew members definitely experience something real. We are going to recommend. That is the perimeter alert," Alex said, immediately shifting into combat mode. They rushed to the operations center where chaos filled every corner. On the main screen, dozens of signatures were dropping out of faster-than-light travel in orbit around Earthships of twisted geometry with all their wrong angles and surfaces that hurt to look at. The collective had arrived early. The first wave hit Earth's orbital defenses within minutes. Human ships built for conflicts with other humans stood no chance against collective technology. The USS Enterprise, humanity's most advanced carrier, was torn apart by weapons that unmade matter at the molecular level. Space stations that had stood for decades became fields of debris. On the ground, panic spread as cities watched the battle rage overhead. Burning wreckage fell from the sky. Emergency broadcasts ordered everyone to shelters while world governments tried desperately to coordinate a response in the command center. Alex watched the destruction unfold with growing horror. "How many ships?" 50 confirmed, more arriving every hour, an officer reported. "They are establishing a blockade. Nothing gets in or out. They are not invading yet." Lyra observed, studying the patterns. "They are isolating you. They will bombard from orbit, destroy your industrial capacity, then send ground forces to round up survivors. Standard collective doctrine for harvesting a new world." "We need Kale," Alex said. "And every dragon you can call one dragon against 50 ships will not be enough." Lyra replied, "No, but it will buy us time." Alex turned to General Hayes. "We need to evacuate key personnel to Ethermore, scientists, military leaders, anyone essential to the war effort. Your people's ships can slip past the blockade. We save who we can, regroup and figure out how to take back Earth." "You are talking about abandoning billions of people," Hayes said, her voice hollow. "I am talking about making sure humanity survives." Alex said, "If we lose everyone with the knowledge to fight back, Earth falls permanently." Lyra touched her wrist device. "I am calling in every favor I have. My people will come, but not enough. Not for this. She looked at Alex. There is one option. It is desperate and dangerous, but it might work. Tell me, the collective ships are coordinated by a central intelligence aboard the flagship, that massive vessel at the center of their formation. If we can destroy it, the rest of their fleet will become disorganized, easier to fight. They will retreat to regroup. How? Do we get to it through 50 other ships? Alex asked. The same way we got to the last one. Lyra said Kale can slip past their defenses, but he will need cover. A distraction big enough to draw their attention. Alex understood immediately. You want Earth's remaining fleet to engage them head-on. A suicide run. Not suicide. A fighting chance. Your ships attack, they focus their weapons on the threat they understand, and we slip through in the chaos. General Hayes was already on communications conferring with other commanders. Within minutes, a plan took shape. Every remaining warship, every armed shuttle, every military asset humanity could gather would launch a coordinated assault. They would likely all die, but they would give Lyra and Alex their opening. This is insane, muttered Admiral Liu, but he was already issuing orders. The crew from Station Epsilon 7 volunteered immediately. You saved us, said Lieutenant Commander Greg Foster, whose face still bore scars from his partial conversion. Let us return the favor. 2 hours later, Alex stood on Kale's back once more as the Dragon prepared for another impossible flight. Beside him, Lyra made final preparations, checking her weapons and the device that would interface with the collective ship's core below them. Earth's makeshift fleet assembled old warships pulled from retirement civilian vessels armed with whatever weapons could be mounted orbital defense platforms prepared to fire their last missiles. It was pathetic compared to the collective armada, but it was everything humanity had. All ships report ready. Hayes' voice came through the communication link. Morrison, whenever you are ready, we will begin the assault. Wait, Lyra said. She activated a wide band transmission that would reach every ship, every shelter, every person on Earth who could hear people of Earth. My name is Lyra. I am one of many species that have fought the collective across the stars. We have lost so much worlds, civilizations, countless lives. But we have never stopped fighting, and we never will. Today humanity joins that fight. Today you learn that you are not alone in this universe and that there are things worth dying to protect. Fight well, die with honor if you must. But know that your sacrifice matters, that it buys time for others to survive and carry on the struggle. We will remember you, Alex added his own words. To everyone out there, we have faced impossible odds before and found a way through. This is no different. We are humanity, and we do not surrender. Not now, not ever. Let's show them what we are made of. The fleet surged forward. Hundreds of ships, thousands of brave souls, hurtling toward an enemy that outmatched them in every way. The collective vessels opened fire, and space lit up with beams of destruction. Now Lyra shouted. Kale launched, accelerating to speeds that blurred reality. They wove through the battle past dying human ships and collective vessels turning to track new targets. Alex saw the Constitution's crew ram their ship into a collective cruiser, both vessels exploding in a flash of light. A wing of fighters formed up around them, providing cover fire. We have got your back, Captain, someone shouted before their ship was vaporized by a collective beam. They were getting closer to the flagship. It was enormous, 10 times larger than anything humanity had ever built, with its surface crawling with weapons and shielding that made it seem invulnerable. But Lyra had studied their designs for decades. She knew there was a weak point, a necessary access port for their conversion chambers. There she pointed. Kale dove, taking fire from a dozen-point defense systems. His shields held but barely. They crashed through the port in a shower of sparks and twisted, metal tumbling into the flagship's interior. Inside was chaos. The ship was alive in the worst way, with walls of flesh metal that pulsed and corridors that moved and shifted, and everywhere converted. Beings from 100 species shambled through, turning toward the intruders with vacant eyes. The core is 3 levels down, Lyra said, cutting through the first wave of attackers. We need to move fast. Kyle, can you reach it? The dragon roared, and simply phased through the floor, taking them with him. They emerged in a vast chamber where a crystalline structure pulsed with sickly light. The ship's intelligence, the thing coordinating the entire fleet, and guarding it was something Alex had hoped never to see again. Patricia Cole, or what she had become. She had been recaptured, more extensively modified now, more machine than human. Behind her stood dozens of other converted crew members from Station Epsilon 7. Patricia, Alex said, lowering his weapon, "I know you are in there somewhere. Fight it." She tilted her head with mechanical parts whirring. "Captain Morrison, resistance is pointless. Join us, become perfected never," Alex said. She attacked with inhuman speed. Alex barely blocked her strike. His armor, absorbing most of the impact, Lyra engaged the other converts while Kale fought toward the core, but there were too many. Lyra threw him her detonation device. "Plant it on the core. I will hold them off." He caught it and ran, dodging between converted beings and Kale's massive form. The core loomed before him, pulsing with power. As he approached, he felt it trying to invade his mind, promising peace and perfection, and an end to struggle. "Not today," he said, slamming the device onto the crystal surface. "Detonation in 30 seconds. A synthetic voice announced. "Time to go," Alex shouted. But Lyra was surrounded, her blades flashing but slowing as exhaustion set in. Patricia had her pinned with mechanical limbs restraining her arms. Alex did not think, he just moved, tackling Patricia off Lyra. They tumbled across the deck, and up close Alex could see tears streaming from her remaining human eye. "Please," she whispered. "Do not let me become this. End it. I am sorry," he said, and fired, point blank. She went limp in his arms, and for a moment, Alex felt the weight of every life lost in this war. 10 seconds, the voice announced. Kale scooped them up in his claws as they fled, phasing back through the levels. Behind them, the core reached critical mass. They burst out of the flagship just as it exploded from within with a chain reaction that tore through its massive structure. The effect on the collective fleet was immediate. Ships began firing randomly, colliding with each other, their coordination shattered. Earth's remaining forces pressed the attack, and impossibly the collective began to retreat. From somewhere in the solar system, reinforcements arrived, not human, but ether-borne 5 warships, smaller than the collective vessels, but deadly efficient. They had come after all. "Grandmother sent them," Lyra said with relief and grief mixing in her voice. She could not commit officially, but she made sure help arrived. The battle raged for 3 more hours, but with the collective in disarray and reinforcements present, the tide had turned. When the last enemy ship jumped to faster than light and fled, a ragged cheer went up from the surviving human crews. But the cost had been devastating. 2/3 of Earth's fleet was gone. Orbital infrastructure lay in ruins, and on the surface, fires burned in cities where debris had fallen, yet humanity had survived, and more importantly, they had proven they could fight one. Week later, Alex stood in the rebuilt command center as representatives from 20 nations signed the Terran Ethermore Alliance. It was only the beginning. There would be more battles, more losses, a long and brutal war ahead. But they would face it together. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the war had spread across 12 star systems, and humanity was learning what it truly meant to fight for survival. Alex stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned warship Defender, watching as human and etherborn crews worked side by side. The vessel was a hybrid design combining human innovation with etherborn technology, and it represented something that had never existed before: a truly unified fighting force. "Captain Morrison, incoming transmission from Admiral Hayes," the communications officer called out. "Put her through," Alex said. Hayes' face appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. "We have reports of collective activity in the Centauri sector. 3 colony worlds are under attack. They are asking for immediate assistance." "How many ships do they have?" Alex asked. "Intel suggests at least 30 collective vessels, maybe more," Hayes replied. "We can scramble a fleet of 20 ships, but it will take time to get them there." "You are the closest," Alex looked at Lyra, who stood beside him as she had for the past 6 months. She nodded without hesitation. "We are on our way," Alex said. "Tell Centauri to hold on. Help is coming." The Defender dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Centauri system, and Alex immediately understood why the colonists were terrified. 3 planets burned in the distance, their atmospheres choked with smoke from orbital bombardment. Collective ships swarmed around them like insects harvesting everything they could reach. "This is worse than we thought," Lyra said. Her hand moved to the communication controls. "All Etherborn forces in range. This is Lyra requesting immediate support. Centauri is falling. How long until reinforcements arrive?" Alex asked. "Hours," his tactical officer replied. "Maybe 3. "We do not have 3 hours," Alex said. "Those colonists will be dead or converted by then. Then we buy them time," Lyra said. She turned to face him with that fierce determination he had come to love. "We have done this before, we can do it again." Alex smiled despite the odds. "1 ship against 30, I like those chances." The crew laughed, a sound that mixed human bravado with Etherborn resolve. They had trained together, bled together, and learned to trust each other in ways that would have seemed impossible 6 months ago. "All hands battle stations," Alex ordered Kyle. "We are going to need you through the viewports." The great dragon appeared flying alongside the ship. His scales gleamed in the light of distant stars, and behind him came others, a dozen more dragons answering Lyra's call. Dragons bonded to Etherborn warriors who had decided that this fight was worth joining. "The odds just got better," Lyra said. The defenders surged forward with weapons, charging human railguns and Etherborn energy weapons, all brought to bear against the enemy. The collective ships noticed them immediately, and several broke off from the bombardment to intercept evasive maneuvers. Alex called out, "Target their command. Vessels first." The ship twisted and dove as plasma bolts streaked past energy beams from the Etherborn weapon systems, lanced out, catching a collective cruiser in its weak point. The enemy vessel shuddered and exploded in a ball of fire. Kale and his dragon wing struck next. They moved through space with impossible grace, tearing into collective ships with claws and flame. The enemy tried to target them, but the dragons were too fast, too maneuverable. "More contacts incoming," the sensor officer reported. "Looks like the rest of the collective fleet is turning to engage us." "Good," Alex said. "That means they are not shooting at the colonies anymore." The battle became a whirlwind of violence and chaos. The defender took hits, but its hybrid shields held absorbing damage that would have destroyed a purely human vessel. The crew worked with practiced efficiency, calling out targets and coordinates in a mixture of English and the Etherborn language. A collective boarding pod latched onto the hull and alarms blared throughout the ship rappel borders. Alex ordered. Lyra was already moving, her blades ignited as she headed for the breach point. Alex followed with a squad of human marines and Etherborn warriors. They reached the corridor just as the collective forces cut through converted beings from a dozen species, all cybernetically enhanced and completely without mercy. "Fire at will," Alex shouted. The corridor lit up with weapons fire. Converted beings fell, but more kept coming, pressing forward with relentless determination. The Marines held the line, but Alex could see they were being pushed back. Lyra moved like lightning, her blades cutting through enemy forces with deadly precision. An Etherborn warrior beside her fell to enemy fire, and she roared with grief and rage. Her eyes blazed with light, and suddenly the air around her seemed to shimmer with energy. She was channeling something Alex had only seen hints of before, a power the Etherborn called the Essence. The energy exploded outward from her in a wave that sent the remaining converted beings flying back, stunned and disoriented. Now Alex shouted, "Push them back." The combined human and Etherborn force surged forward, driving the boarders back to their pod before they could retreat. Alex ordered the external weapons to target the pod. It exploded, taking the remaining enemies with it. "Bridge. We have cleared the borders." Alex reported. "Acknowledged," came the reply. "Captain, we have incoming friendly signatures. The fleet has arrived early on the main view screen. 20 warships dropped out of faster than light travel, a mix of human and Etherborn vessels, all bearing the symbol of the new alliance." They immediately engaged the collective forces, and the tide of battle shifted. The enemy realized they were now outnumbered and outmatched. Collective ships began to retreat, jumping to faster than light one by one. Within an hour, the system was clear. Alex stood on the bridge watching as rescue operations began. On the 3 colony worlds, fires still burned and the damage was extensive, but the colonists had survived. Thanks to the defenders' intervention, the collective had not been able to complete their harvest. Casualty reports are coming in, Hayes said, over the communication link. We lost 3 ships and the colonies took heavy damage, but you saved over 2 million people today. Morrison. Well done, just doing our job. Admiral Alex replied. He found Lyra later in the medical bay where she was having her injuries treated. She had taken a plasma burn to her shoulder during the boarding action, but she waved off his concern. I have had worse, she said. It will heal. You used the essence back there? Alex said. I have never seen you do that before. It is dangerous to use in combat, she admitted. It requires focus and control that is hard to maintain in the chaos of battle. But I could not let our people die. Not when I had the power to stop it. Our people. Alex repeated. I like the sound of that. She smiled and took his hand. We have come a long way. Have we not? 6 months ago, our peoples did not even know the other existed. Now we fight side by side. We live and die together. And we are winning. Alex said some battles, yes. But the war is far from over. Lyra looked troubled. The collective has vast resources. We have hurt them, bloodied them, but they are adapting. They are learning from each defeat. Then we adapt faster. Alex said, that is what humans do best. We learn. We evolve. We find new ways to fight. That is what I am counting on, she said. Over the following weeks, the pattern repeated itself. The collective would attack a system. The alliance would respond. Sometimes they arrived in time. Sometimes they did not. Worlds were saved and worlds were lost. The war ground on with no clear end in sight. But something was changing. Alex could see it in the way human and etherborn crews worked together in the shared memorial services, where both species mourned their dead in the gradual blending of tactics and strategies. A new culture was forming, one born of necessity, but growing into something more. 3 months after Centauri, Alex and Lyra were called to a meeting on Ethermore. Elder Mira and General Hayes were there, along with representatives from a dozen other species that had joined the alliance. We have intelligence that the collective is massing forces for a major offensive. Elder Mira said they are gathering ships from across their territory, hundreds of vessels, maybe thousands. There, target Hayes asked. Unknown. But our analysts believe they will strike at either Earth or Ethermore. They want to break our alliance by destroying one of our core worlds. Then we need to be ready for them. Alex said, we fortify both systems, prepare defenses that can hold against that kind of assault. There is another option, Lyra said quietly. We could strike first. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at her. Explain, Elder, Mira said. We know where they are gathering their fleet. Lyra continued. A staging area in the Void Nebula. If we could hit them there while they are still organizing, we could cripple their offensive before it begins. That would require taking almost our entire fleet deep into enemy territory. Hayes said, the risk is enormous. Is the risk of letting them attack us on their terms, Lyra replied. We have been reacting to their moves since this war began. Always defending, always one step behind. It is time we took the initiative. Alex understood immediately. She was right. They had been playing defense and it was slowly bleeding them dry. To win, they needed to go on the offensive, to take risks that might cost them everything. I am in, Alex said. If we are going to do this, we do it with everything we have. Hit them so hard. They never see it coming. One by one, the other representatives agreed. It was insane and desperate and dangerous, but it was also their best chance. The plan came together over the next 2 weeks. Every available ship, every dragon, every soldier that could be spared. They would strike in 3 waves, the first to break through the outer defenses, the second to